What's tea? What's good? So this is my setup right here. Let me show y'all. So this is my vanity that I got Amazon. And right now, I'm about to have a little self-care day with myself because I just been, I want to say focused, but in a sense, I don't want to say focused. Like, I've just been working a lot. The holidays, you know, I had a great Christmas with my son. Family came and visited for Thanksgiving. And I've just been working, just on the grind, just making moves in silence. And I actually saw a video on TikTok that Kaylani had posted. And it was just about how she feels like, you know, she doesn't like to be perceived in her periods of growth or in her periods of like education or learning and things like that. And how it just made her reassess, you know, the way that she views people and like the consideration that she has for other people and being mindful of the season that they're in. And I think that's really beautiful. And, you know, I resonate with Kaylani because we do have the same sun and moon sign. And it's really a special combination. And it just kind of reminded me of myself, right? Like, I really don't like to be perceived because I know that oftentimes it comes with, you know, jealousy or, you know, feelings of envy or projection. It's just like, although I am a goddess, like, I'm having a human experience, okay? Like, I'm just trying to thrive on this planet just like the rest of y'all. Like, you know, and I can do my day-to-day without having to worry about dealing with somebody else's low vibrational projections of me. Which kind of does touch into the last thing that we talked about in my last video, where it was just like staying firmly grounded in my energy despite external factors. And I think a huge part of that is the intention of staying firmly grounded. And although you have the awareness of what's going on, using the information that you have. So it's like, it's one thing to be like, oh, like, bitches, hey, or they project or whatever. It's another thing to completely expect and be like, yeah, like, she's insecure. And she sees what the fuck, she sees the material. So it's like, when you expect that, it doesn't shock you and surprise you. Aside from like walking into everything fully trusting people. The only thing that you should fully ever trust is God. That's the only thing you should ever put your trust in and have faith in is God. And with that, everything else will fall into place and follow suit. So I say all that to say, like, you know, today's just going to be a little day where I'm just catching up with myself, spending time in my own energy, a little self-care moment, taking care of some stuff. Got some Amazon packages coming in. I have dinner, or technically it's early in the day, so that'll be lunch, but I have dinner in the crock pot, which is one of my Christmas gifts. Like, I'm really at that point in life, like, where I get excited about appliances. Like, I got a couple of appliances that I'm hella gassed about that I just feel like I'm really a butter pecan shorty. It's crazy. Like, I walk around in muumuus and head wraps and slippers, and I'm in love with my crock pot. This is one of my other gifts. This this essential oil diffuser. It's so cute. Like, I'm living. It is so cute. Let me show you. It is so cute. So yeah, but just having a little self-care day or whatever. Just to get back in touch with myself, because it's very easy to kind of like go on autopilot, you know, work, pay bills, repeat. It's very easy to do that, and just fall into that routine of the rat race. I'm not a believer of that reality. I don't subscribe to that reality. Unfortunately, it was a reality that was programmed into me. So I'm still in that space of like unlearning and unapplying that reality to self. But at the same time, like, I can't just be in the 5D all day, every day, 24/7. Like, I have to be down here as well, because this is literally where my physical body is. This is literally where, you know, all the physical experiences are happening. And this is where all the manifestations of what's happening in the ethers and above, you know, is taking place. So I don't know if I'm rambling or not, but if you're watching this, clearly you're enjoying it, so fuck it. I went and got my eyebrows threaded today, got my son a haircut, and we're back in the crib like by 11, which was beautiful. Love that for us. I want to talk about authenticity. I want to talk about authenticity and why a lot of people struggle with it. Aside from the obvious reasons, right? Like, we're kind of in this society where if something is different, it's automatically labeled negatively and labeled as weird or crazy, you know? And as you grow up, you kind of learn what's socially acceptable and what's not, and you start to apply that to your thoughts and your opinions and your ideas and your personality and the way that you express yourself. You know, because we all knew that kid in high school or middle school who used to do the Naruto run to lunch, you know, and shit like that. And it's just like, some people will make fun of that kid and be like, oh, that nigga's weird, this and that. But it's like, honestly, like, that's something that brings that person joy. And at that point in time, they're not giving a fuck about people's perception of them. This is genuinely what they enjoy doing, and they're gonna do it. And I just feel like we should all get back to that. You know, I know that one thing that a lot of people ultimately end up like envying me for is my authenticity. Because I represent a lot of the things that maybe they're afraid to express. You know, I'm firmly coded in my divinity. But at the same time, I don't let it take away from the way that I express myself. Yeah, I'm a curse. And yeah, I still be saying nigga. Like, and yeah, I'm gonna like just say it the way it is. I'm not gonna code switch and try to like over articulate myself, even though I am a naturally like very articulate person. I just don't feel the need to be swayed by like the environments I'm in, because no matter what environment I'm in, I'm gonna thrive because I am who I am. And I think that that's intimidating to people. There are people who have firmly planted themselves in an identity. My D's and my T's be rolling. I don't know why, like, but there are people who firmly plant themselves in an identity, in a role, right? Where this is the mask they choose to put on every day when they go out into the world, when they interact with people, when they form connections, when they go to work. This is that identity and that I role that they're committing to. And there may be certain moments where they want to remove the mask, or certain glimpses of who they actually are or how they actually feel may shine through, and they feel the need to kind of like pull that back or rein it in. And then they see someone like me, someone who authentically and genuinely just is who they are. just in all my beauty, right? And beauty coming from an internal place. Because there are people who pretend to be good people. That's my son vacuuming, and he's a boy, so they'd be rough. People who pretend to be good people who really aren't, right? Who, when the camera's off, when the door's closed, they're not the same person. There's people who pretend to be a lot of things. And I think that when they see me, they're waiting for the mask to fall. And the more time they spend around me, they realize like, oh, shit, this girl is the real deal. And that's intimidating to some people because they feel like, damn, like, why don't you need to fake it? Like, what is it about you? And then they feel this need to have like this like secret underlying competition. But the moment that you decide to compete with me, you already lose, right? And not just me talking shit and being egotistical, but genuinely. The moment that you decide to compete with anyone outside of yourself, you've already lost. Because the only person that you're meant to compete with is the older and outdated versions of yourself. And I think that honoring and embracing the fact that you're uniquely you will always give you the advantage in any situation. Because when you're uniquely yourself and you honor yourself and you honor your morals and your values and you know what you're going for and you know what you're not going for, like, it's very hard for someone to convince you to be a part of something or to indulge in something or to fuck with something that you genuinely don't fuck with. And that's not me just saying like, oh, I'm perfect, I'm great, I'm this and that. Like, yeah, this comes from an ex-people pleaser. And whether my people pleasing was rooted in like just being very empathetic and not knowing how to channel that energy of being an empath, or whether it just came from like wanting to suppress certain versions of myself, whatever the case may be, like, it never served me. It only served the people that I was people pleasing, and it only served the perception of me that I wanted them to have. But whenever you have a perception of someone who doesn't have a spine, who doesn't have a backbone, who can't tell you no, that perception 9 times out of 10 doesn't come with respect. People will never respect someone that they can get one over on, especially continuously and religiously. Like, if somebody can depend on the fact that they're going to get one over on you, that person is never going to respect you. And that goes in any kind of connection, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether that's a family member, parent, like coworker, boss, like anybody that feels like they could genuinely depend on you to not stand on shit is not someone that's going to respect you. They don't respect you. They already don't respect you. So that's where boundaries come into play. And boundaries may be hard for people to establish, especially if you come from a household where you've never had boundaries. Especially if you come from a household where your parents were constantly violating your boundaries and you ain't even know what boundaries, what the fuck was. And all your fucking friendships and connections and everything that you've ever had were always these like codependent trauma bonds. Of course, you're not going to really feel like you're able to have boundaries, but people who have boundaries have the best and the most healthiest relationships. Take it from someone who's been on both sides of that. Take it from someone who's been a people pleaser, been around people who I just didn't really love, didn't really trust, didn't really fuck with like that. Like people who just didn't serve me, people who I didn't feel safe around, or people who I feel like I couldn't be my authentic self around. And then transitioning to having friends that just love me so deeply and just so honestly and so genuinely. Like, they're gonna hold me accountable. If I'm fucking up, I can hold them accountable when something ain't right. You know, just the love is so pure and genuine because it's like we're not dependent on each other. And we're not putting all this pressure on one another to make each other happy. Like, oh, I need you. And that's what just makes it so much more fun to love someone like that. You know? And that does translate into romantic relationships as well, you know? Because imagine the stress of having a partner who like makes you feel like it's your sole job and role to make them happy. That's going to be impossible. Nobody can do that. Because you'll have days where you're not happy and you may need that energy reciprocated. Or, you know, nobody wants to be in this consistent, like, role of servitude where they have to walk on eggshells, or they have to, like, constantly be extreme, like, hyper mindful of everything they say and do. Fuck no. So that's the importance of establishing boundaries. Even when it comes to, like, getting to know someone or interacting with someone, right? They have to have enough respect to know not to, like, ask you personal shit if you're not in a personal relationship with them. Or they have to have enough respect for you to know, like, you know what I'm saying? So, shit like that. Boundaries are a gift that you give to yourself. They're not a restriction for other people. You're not restricting people from loving you. You're gifting yourself something, you know? By establishing a boundary, you're gifting yourself the chance and opportunity to advocate for yourself. Say, that's not really funny, or I didn't really like that, or I don't want to be a part of that, or I don't want to go there, I don't want to do this. Boundaries are a gift to yourself. People pleasing is a gift to others that you can't afford. At the end of the day, when you're home alone and you chilling by yourself, like, it doesn't feel good. And you probably sitting there talking to yourself mad as fuck, like, oh, I can't believe that bitch. Like, you should never leave a situation feeling like you didn't say what needed to be said because you were holding back or you were trying to spare somebody. Because that's how you build resentment. And that's how you start to harbor animosity. And the moment that you do that, that connection is null and void. If you can't authentically express a grievance with someone that you're in a connection with, or that you care about, or that's supposed to care about you, that's not a healthy connection. Do you feel like you have to hide how you feel, or you have to filter everything you do or say because you're afraid of how they're going to respond? That's not right. That's not right at all. But nonetheless, everyone is in a different space, in a different time within their journey. And this is not to bash you if you find yourself, you know, still doing those things or in those habits, but I pose this question to you. What's the worst that could happen if you say no? And if that worst were to happen, would you still be okay? Would you survive? Would you come back from that? Is the risk of saying no worth it to you? That's all I would give to you. That's the only question I would just, you know, make someone think about. Because at the end of the day, you have to sleep with yourself. You have to lay with yourself. You wake up with yourself. You wash yourself. Like, you are the only person experiencing your emotions. You can communicate your emotions. You may be able to share your emotions, but you're the only one ultimately that sits with your emotions. Don't you care about how that makes you feel? Don't you care about the kind of experiences you're giving yourself? And if you do, what can you do to elevate those experiences? What can you do to make those experiences better on your behalf? Where you walk away from that conversation, or you walk away from that interaction and you feel okay, and you feel good, and you feel happy. And you're not sitting there arguing with yourself in the shower thinking about what you should have said, but genuinely content that you advocated for yourself in that moment. Imagine how that would feel. Anyone that really loves you will never be offended by your boundaries. Never. Whether it was speaking up for yourself and how you feel and saying like, I didn't like that, or this hurt my feelings, or whether it's rejecting an opportunity and simply saying no. Anyone that really loves you will always respect and honor your boundaries, even if they don't agree with them. Even if it's an adjustment for them, right? Because if you start off something with no boundaries and then you establish the boundaries later on down the connection, it's an adjustment for both of you. It's something you have to like continue to practice, and it's something that the other person has to get used to, you know? But anyone that loves you will always respect your boundary. Even if you're not the best at communicating how you feel and you're kind of having trouble putting it into words or whatever the case may be, as soon as you just express the simple notion that I'm not okay with this, or this didn't make me feel good, someone that loves you will always be receptive to that. And if someone isn't receptive to it, or has an issue with it, or argues, or doesn't respect the boundary, or constantly crosses it, or makes you feel wrong for expressing the boundary, or tries to gaslight you into saying, oh, well, you didn't used to have boundaries before, well, you have them now. Any of those reactions will tell you exactly what you need to know about that person. And they'll tell you exactly how they feel about you. And ultimately, it's telling you, let that motherfucker go. Ultimately.